I think we're all set. Does that mean we're live? So good afternoon. First of all, let me apologize for being late. We were supposed to start right at 12 o'clock, but I got hung up in the office having a conversation with the sergeant. So I greatly apologize if you were looking for me to be here right on time. I should have been here at 12, and it's my fault. I apologize. So this is one of our Facebook Live sessions. Want to do one of these each month, and as we go throughout the year. And it's just kind of a way to reach some of the community members that I'm not able to talk with so much at some of the community meetings or events. This is just another venue to reach out and talk to an audience with all the things going on, hustle and bustle with life. We're going to do one this afternoon, and then we'll do another segment this evening. So I just think it's important to share a little bit of information. This is the month I also am trying to do some town hall meetings. I'll be doing one in each precinct. I've completed the one in see where we did. We did the south precinct, and we did the north precinct. We'll do one in the central this Thursday, actually at 6:30. We'll be at Birmingham Midtown Community Center, and we'll spend about an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes doing some question and answer. But I want to kind of give some of the information today at this session that I would on Thursday, and that I have at the previous two meetings. So what I'd like to do is kind of give you an overview of where we look crime-wise for the so far this year. Matter of fact, I just looked at the numbers early this morning. We look at those crime numbers. They come in every Monday, and then we do some report out Monday afternoon, and then again at Thursday at our CompStat meeting and Intel meetings. So as we sit today, the police department here in Newport News, the crime, we have about a 4% reduction in violent crime, and we have about a 14% reduction in property crime. That's our burglaries, our auto thefts, larcenies. You crunch those two numbers together. If the FBI were to call today and ask for a synopsis, that puts the city at about a 12, almost a 13% reduction overall. Last year we ended out 2018 with a 5% reduction overall. Right now we're sitting at a 13%, and we're just a few more days left in April. This year is flying by. So January, February, March, April, the first 4 months, we've gotten off to a pretty good start. We're currently looking at we have 5 homicides in our city. I'm going to go backwards, forwards. We have the homicide of, and all of these are tragic. They're all unfortunate. And my heart and this department's heart goes out to the victims who have lost loved ones this year. 2 were domestic. 2 it looks like they're going to be argument type related, and then 1. We're preparing the final documents on that has a possibility of being justifiable. I just want to be transparent with that. They're still looking at the case. The Commonwealth Attorney and the detectives will get together and make that decision. That would have been our first one for the year. This time last year we had 6 murders. So we are down in homicides. We're down in our aggravated assaults are just about even. We're way down in robberies. We had this time last year we had 31 people shot in the city of Newport News. Currently to date we have 16. So we've got just a little under 50% reduction in our shootings, which is huge. That's always a good way to look at our street violence when I look at robberies and shootings. And then of course we try to break those down and get to the root cause. What's the motive behind that? Why did that happen? But I want to tell you a couple things going on. So we've talked a little bit about crime. One of the goals that I set forth this year as we move forward is to have. I wanted to do 6 youth forums. I want to spend some time talking with youth about how they see their department, their community, issues with social media. We talked about diversity, but my goal was to have 6 youth forums. I've done so far 5. I'm going to do my 6th one actually tomorrow at 8:30. I'll be at Warwick High School, and then on Thursday I'll go one above and do Minchville High School. So we'll put us at each high school, and then we did one early in the year at Midtown Community Center. And it's just for me to field questions. We've had the groups have been about 75 to 100 students, young people, and we just to be as open and transparent as I can and talk a little bit about issues that may be important to them and issues that are certainly important to me. And I ask some questions and try to get their feedback. But it's not just me. I usually have someone there from our major crimes division. I usually have someone from the forensics division, and then a patrol officer, so that I've kind of got a good around group that can talk about the department and field some of the questions. And I think that's important. They've been very beneficial to me. one, I really enjoy interacting with our youth of the city, but two, I think it's important that a lot of times I think they feel like they don't have a voice, and that's exactly what I'm trying to give them, and I'm giving them the ears to listen. I just want to hear what they have to say, what their thoughts are. So let me see, make sure I don't miss any. And let me just say this. Sometimes I don't read as fast, so any questions that we miss, we'll try to respond back to you. Myself or media relations will try to get the information back to you. But please, if you have a question, chime in. I give you as much as I know, and if I don't know, we'll find out and go from there. So let me see what I got here. Hi, Chief Drew. Is there any way to the Boulevard shooting from the weekend? Is there any update on the? I can tell you. So the double shooting that we had, both of those, I've got an update on both victims. Both are considered not life threatening. There's not more of an update right now. There has been some information came in. They're reviewing some crime tips that have come forward and some information. Early stages, not as far as long as I would hope to be, but I can tell you there's some different scenarios surrounding that incident that they're trying to muddle through. There's some things they've got to get some factual stuff on, but I don't have any further updates other than that both victims are not considered to be life-threatening at this point. But there's a lot of concerns I have of how that happened and what the situation was and circumstances behind that. So there's a couple different angles. One, the venue, and two is of course, who is our suspect and the motive, what was it all over. So there's just a couple different veins there that are different than some of the other cases that I had, and we'll get a further briefing at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Ben, thank you for chiming in. I appreciate that. So I just want to go back a couple over the last. We did have our a homicide last week in the northern part of the city. We did a community walk there afterwards. We tried to interact with some of the citizens. There were a couple of things that were important for me. One, it was the turnout. I continue to be overwhelmed with the number of officers that respond. We don't send a mandate that makes officers respond to those events that we have. But we're seeing a lot of officers come out. That shows me that people are really caring about this community, caring about these incidents that occur. And it was, it's such a loss. Any homicide, it's such a loss. It affects family. It affects that neighborhood, that community. It affects the city, and it affects this department. But we had faith leaders. We had city councilmen. There's a group of young people that I talked about before, the young adult police commissioners. These are freshmen, junior, senior, and sophomore students at each of our high schools that we work with every Thursday. And a group of those students came out, right? And they walked the neighborhood and they talked to some of their peers. A young man named Elijah even gave an interview, and I was touched by what he said, and we spent a little bit of time just me and Elijah talking afterwards. But that's a tragic event. I do feel like we will clear that case, but it's just any loss is tough. But a high school student so that was a hard scene, and it was a very heartfelt walk the next day. We interacted with the community. Department management has been fantastic. They did a great job cooperating with us, allowing us to be on the property there, and they even walked with us and talked to some individuals out there. So I think that's when we come together. I was at a church service on Sunday, and we talked about staying the course and not walking away and not giving up, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to reduce crime in this city. We got off to a great start this year. We still have ways to go. There's still things we can do to improve on and continue to reevaluate what I'm doing, what we're doing, are we doing the right direction. I think that's good, healthy discussion, good debates. But we're going to reduce crime in this city. This is a new city. Mayor Price talks all the time about it. There's a new vibe. The city manager, Cindy Roth, talks about we have a lot of momentum, and they're absolutely right. We do. We're doing the right things, the good things. Citizens are calling more often. Our clearance rates are much higher. Crime is down in this city. We're tremendous community interaction and involvement. I was at 3 events just over the weekend. An Easter egg hunt up at Todd Stadium, HR CAP community meeting. I'll tell you what, there was some good food on the grill down there. That's for sure. And then Dr. Cherry had a nice event, Easter basket giveaway. as well. So it was 3 really nice events. I really enjoyed that on Saturday, and then back at it again this morning with going through the reports. We just had our one of our staff meetings, and we have another one at 1 o'clock, and we'll get some more future updates on what's happened in the open cases that we have. All right, so let me make sure I'm not missing any. K9 unit is awesome. Everybody, I don't know. I got to get some good feedback. Is it the dogs that everybody likes, or is it the officers that work there? I got to figure out which it is. But no, the K9 guys do a great job. They're valued. They do a great job in this department. Using dogs in what we do is a tremendous benefit and helps us out greatly in the work that we do. It's also a great icebreaker. A lot of youth seem to like being around dogs and have questions, and some of the training that they do and bringing them out to different events I think is really important. But they are a great asset. Let's see. 17 years old. Is there anything police department will be doing to try to reach out to the youth in the area to get more info on the crime? Christopher, there's a lot of things that we're doing. One is again, I talked about youth forums. I think providing a venue where people can talk. I'll tell you one of the things, usually I start out with this question. So if you picture a room, it's usually in their auditorium, stage, right? And there's about 75 to 100 kids. And I ask them, how many know someone or know of someone who has suffered a gunshot wound or been injured by a violent crime in this city? And just about every hand goes up. That usually is where the conversation stops and really begins, where the chatter and all that, it kind of settles down. Now we're talking about some serious that they're familiar with, and we really have some good conversation. So we have the Young Adult Police Commissioners. It's working with our youth and youth forums, programs with the Boys and Girls Clubs, our interaction with the community, all those things. But at the end of the day, the plea comes out to coming forward, right? People will only do, the criminal element will only do in your neighborhood what we allow them to do in that neighborhood. If we allow them to look into vehicles, to take things out of cars, if we allow them to look inside sheds in our backyards and through our windows, if we allow them to set up on street corners, and no one calls and no one reports that, you're almost sending a message that it's okay. So what I'm asking for is citizens not to allow that. And what I've seen across this city, when I look at neighborhoods that have had higher violence than they are this year, and I ask what's the difference, and I look at the calls for service, and they're almost tripled, right? People are calling in more. They're letting us know quicker about what's going on in the city. They're letting us know that, hey, something's not right here. And as for our language in the police department, individuals will tell us, hey, we're not doing this event, these actions in this neighborhood because it's hot, meaning that the police are here. Citizens are taking back their neighborhoods. And that's what I want. I want that message to be sent that people are not going to tolerate acts of violence and being victims in their communities. We're just not going to do that, and we're going to work together with our churches, the Boys and Girls Clubs, the YMCA, our fire department, the police department, human services, communities, neighborhood watch programs, that we're making a change. And I think that's the vibe that we're feeling. I think that's the momentum that we're feeling, that crime is down, we're moving in the right direction, people are on board, we're interacting with youth. So those are things. But I'll put out this, and I'll say that at each meeting that I have, if you know something or have heard something, to say something, to let us know. I would rather look into it and it be nothing at all than not look into it and individual who committed a violent crime goes free, or that we're putting up crime scene tape at 2:30 in the morning. I think we have to work together. We have to work together, sharing information, being responsive, and reducing crime in this city. From what I've seen so far, we're moving in the right direction, but we still have a lot of things that I'd like to do and a long way to go. Maurice. Maurice says it's because we hire great officers, and I'll tell you what, this is a talented department. There was a lot of great individuals here. I'm looking forward to the 22 young men and women that are in our police academy that will graduate at the end of June. I'm looking forward to the new individuals that have been selected to be the next promotions in this department. And then I'm looking forward to the class that will start in July. This morning I met with 2 individuals that want to join this department. And I asked them, as we talk a little bit about how do they feel about law enforcement, they give me a little bit of a background of themselves, their families, their education, their experience. But I asked them, why do you choose Newport News? Now, when I started, it was, oh, this department because they have all this neat stuff and you get it all. But what I'm hearing routinely from young people that want to join this department, whether they're out of the military, they're just out of college, or they have another job and they want to come over to the Newport News Police Department, what I hear is they say they follow us, they look at us on Facebook, they read our social media, they look at the different things we're doing in the community, and they talk about it. Your community interaction, the stuff that you do with youth, that really drives us here. When I interact with officers or we do their ride-alongs here in Newport News, that they like the way officers interact with citizens. Now that's important. If I'm getting officers who want to come to this agency because they care about people, that's what I'm looking for. Officers with new ideas, that think outside the box, that are creative, responsive, that they care about people. When I started, we went to a neighborhood, we wrote a report, we may or may not have made an arrest, and then we left. I'm looking for people to come in and solve problems, to interact with our community, right, to make things better. That's what I want here. I can teach you how to do all the reports, I can teach you the defensive tactics, how to use all the things on our duty belt, but what I can't teach is a heart for people, and that's the individuals that I want to come into this department. That's what I'm looking for in leadership as we move forward. That's why I had citizens on our interview panels that helped select the next deputy chief, the next captain, lieutenants and sergeants. I had a citizen and citizens on each panel to help me make those decisions. I think that's important. Toya, thank you. I'll tell you, I appreciate that. I do a lot of soul searching. I do a lot of thinking. I didn't take these promotions lightly. When I look at our strategies and what we're doing in neighborhoods and how we're doing on our crime, what is our solvability factor? Are we bringing closure to families? I sit back and what can I do better, right? What can I do better? And I have a strong faith. I talk to a lot of other officers, whether they're patrolmen and have been here for 6 months, or they're captains and assistant chiefs that have been here for 20, 30 years. I also talk to people in the community. I enjoy those conversations that I have. Like I said, I was at a great church service on Sunday. I was with Pastor Swan and Ivy Baptist Church, and I had a really good conversation with several individuals that talked about, we like what you're doing in the community. Now, they weren't talking about crime being down, right? They were talking about our exposure, our interaction, how we interact with our youth, how we partner with citizens, how we're accessible, we're being transparent and open with the community. I think that goes a long way, and I think that's really the key things when we talk about community policing, that regardless when things are good or when things are not so good, that we're open and transparent, we have open conversations, and we build trust. That's why we have citizens on our use of force review board. That's why citizens are helping out with our promotional process. That's why we're doing community events. We're partnering with our churches. We have faith leaders meetings. We have the young adult police commissioners. We have Citizens United for Action that meet here every month and talk about 3 or 4 different issues that they want to see change in this community, right? Everything improving the quality of life in Newport News. Crime reduction, making this the place that people want to be, live, work, play, raise family. That's important, and I think that's the momentum and the vibe that we have going on right now. This is a great department. It's a lot of talented people here. They do a lot of great work. Let's see. Tracy, your dedication to your officers in Newport News is incredible. Well, first of all, Tracy, thank you. I need that. I appreciate that. I might have to frame that and show it to the officers at our next meeting. But I will say this, I do care about them. I grew up just outside of Cincinnati, Ohio. I spent 25 years up in Richmond. And look, the Newport News community and the officers, men and women here in this Newport News Police Department, sworn in civilian, they are my family, and I do care about them. This job is hard. They're exposed to a lot. They see a lot. This same conversation earlier today, I told one of the new recruits that not too often are you called to come over to somebody's house for lunch or dinner or to see how happy they are about someone's report card. We're called because there's been a traffic accident, a neighborhood dispute, there's an overdose, someone's being disorderly, a violent crime. That's when we're called. Oftentimes, we are called and we see society at its worst. But in those times, that's when I believe that this police department can show society its best. When we come to those situations and restore order and calm and try to solve problems and fix situations and improve things, show people that we care about them, have empathy for their situations, and try to address it and fix it and work together, get them back on their feet, pointed in the right direction. I think that's important. I do care about the men and women that work here. One of my 3 pillars is the health and welfare of this organization, right? And I'm not talking about the bricks and mortar and the vehicles, all the great facilities that we have. I'm talking about the men and women who come to work every day, right? Day shift, evening, midnight, sworn and civilian, that miss holidays, miss birthday parties, miss sporting events with their families. We never shut down. The phone doesn't just ring and ring. Somebody's going to answer. Somebody's going to respond. And it's that dedication, whether it's our officers, our civilians, our dispatchers that work around the clock, 24 hours a day. That's the kind of people that I want working here that are dedicated, that care about community, care about this city, and I am blessed. I am blessed to have such a great department, but they are my family, and I do care about them, and that's the type of atmosphere that I want. Now, we'll make mistakes. I hold myself accountable and this organization accountable. We will make mistakes. We are better today than we were yesterday. You've heard me say that before. We're going to be better tomorrow than we are today. But we strive to do the best we can and bring the best quality service to the citizens of Newport News, and I think that's extremely important. Good information, Chief. There's like the changes you have made. The community is seeking a difference. Great job. Wow, thank you. Change is always difficult and challenging. Sometimes it's embraced right away, but oftentimes there's a little resistance. Like I said, when I got here, this is a good city. It's a great department. There's a lot of talent here, and I didn't make changes right away. I kind of went around to each roll call at each precinct and each division with our dispatchers, our different precincts, the different divisions in the department, and just kind of took some things in. I looked at our crime, I looked at our numbers, I looked at our calls for service, but I think there were some problems the way we were structured. I think we've got to do some things differently. And I think that we're moving in that right direction. I feel good with the way we're staffed now. I think our homicide division was extremely overworked. I don't think that the precincts had enough resources in their own precincts to be able to run and be held accountable for the issues and crime and the situations in their precinct. And we've tried to decentralize a lot of things. I think that's important, is to put things back into the field and not have everything centralized. I do think there are times, though, that having some things centralized, when we talk about community youth and outreach, that's a new division we created, that now I don't have to pull from the street and pull people off from patrolling other neighborhoods to do community events. I have a group right there that can do those things. And I understand it's a little different, but from what I'm seeing, I think it was the right time to make some of those changes. I didn't do them right away, but we're continuing. We're going to meet later today and we talk about making some personnel movement. With these promotions, it's created a vacuum, and we make sure that we put the right people in the right place to bring the best service for this community and run this department. Supervision is important. We just had a class last week on leadership. I want to bring in some schools on investigations at the homicide level, the aggravated assault level, even the precinct level. I want to bring in some attorneys, senior investigators from around the country to come here and talk about a basic investigation school and advanced investigation school. And I want to talk a little bit about more. I'm always interested in either traveling or bringing resources here to talk to us about how to engage our community and work more with our youth. So I appreciate that, but I think you have to communicate openly about why we're making the change, bringing more and more community members in. I talk about our promotional boards where citizens sit on, or use of force review boards where citizens take a part of, and there was some pushback, right? It was a little bit of resistance, being unsure, but I will tell you, for the most part, the officers that I talk to say they like to see things we're doing, and I think it's important. I think it just creates a better, I think we're more efficient, and I think we're much more transparent. Austin, assault in the 500 block of Logan Place. The crime was only reported as a simple assault. Yeah, Austin. So we go through the crime numbers every Monday. We go through them every Thursday, and we go through them. Every Thursday we have a CommStat meeting, an Intel meeting. So let me. So we're clear, Austin. Nobody's doing anything about not reporting crime. We reported the same way this year as we did last year, the same way we did before. But I do hold the detectives accountable about, and officers, right, about what the circumstances are. So you have to be careful with, because a report was made, I tell you, we get a lot of reports made about certain crimes, and then when we do the investigation, it's, well, I didn't say this because I didn't want my mother to get mad, or I didn't want my wife to find out, or, look, I was just upset, and this isn't really what happened. The forensics evidence doesn't go along with the statements. That's why they're called investigations. So I want to jump on that right away. I want to be very direct with you. Nobody's changing any reports here. Nobody's changing any crimes here. They're reported out. We review them by their sergeant, lieutenant, and captain. We review them every Monday, and again over the crime numbers on Thursdays. So we look at those intensely. So I appreciate your concern, but I want you to rest assured that the reports come in, but they do investigate it. We're not just doing a report of someone says X happened. We're not just taking that and being done with it. There has to be follow-up investigation. Does the evidence apply to that? And people tell us, well, there's only one gunshot, and we recovered 4 shell casings. So the evidence doesn't support what we're hearing. So we just got to make sure you get the totality. People see different things, they hear different things, they talk about different things. So I appreciate the comment on it, but I want to be very, very clear that is not the case here, nor has it been. If you look at our numbers over the last 2 or 3 years, you'll see that our aggravated assaults have stayed just about the same. In fact, we had an increase last year in aggravated assaults. We were up about, I want to say about 22 more aggravated assaults last year than the year before. And if you look at our aggravated assaults this year, that's the only crime that we're up right now. We have 3 more aggravated assaults this year than last year. Now, it's funny that you talked about the kidnapping and strangulation, because that is one of when we talk about domestics, that is really where I haven't seen the inroads that I'd like to see. We continue to have problems with domestics, and I've had 2 homicides this year that have been a result of domestic violence, and we go to the same addresses over and over. There's issues with court. I've talked with the Commonwealth Attorney extensively about our domestic assault cases. I've talked to, I created a detective that oversees all domestic violence cases, the ones that are the most serious, that they're reviewing to make sure we haven't missed anything that we need to go back and ask any follow-up questions on. But domestic violence is a real passion for me, because I've got to find a better way to address that crime in Newport News, to address that issue. And it's hard because so often it's behind closed doors. So when we're patrolling neighborhoods, we don't see those things. We don't hear those things. So I asked the citizens to help me. I had the same conversation with faith leaders, with business organizations, certainly with schools, as we talk to young people more and more about domestic violence, sexual assault. But if you hear things going on next door, you see something in the front yard, I'm asking citizens to call us. I would rather respond and it be horseplay or nothing at all than not to respond, and we're knocking on a door and putting up crime scene tape at 2:30 in the morning. Domestic violence is a very hard issue. It's a serious issue. I did the walk a mile in her shoes. I did the walk in Hampton. I did not put high heels on, but I did walk, and I really enjoyed the interaction I had with some individuals there, some conversation. I've had some speakers come in and talk to our faith leaders and talk to our youth commissioners and talk to our department about domestic violence. I think Howard Gwynn joins me in our concern for domestic violence cases in the city. And I've got to find a way to do a better job. I've even talked to our pastors about maybe having some sermons about domestic violence. But that is a real issue in our city, and it's a real struggle. I have not seen, we've kind of stayed pretty flat for the last 3 years. And I've got to, that's something I really want to do better at, is domestic violence. It just impacts so many lives, so many lives. Let's see. Since you've come to the board, it's awesome to see the public engagement. Social media engagement. Social media. Sean, it's funny you say that. Give me just a second. So Sean, I appreciate that. I will tell you, I am not the best social media person, right? I struggle turning the computer on. But I have a great team, and they talk to me about the Facebook Live sessions and how important it is. We have the Next Door program and Facebook Live, and I just think it creates a way to interact with people that can't get out to some of the meetings. And I'm sure there's a lot more important things people would like to do than sit and listen to me or interact with me. But so far it's been pretty positive. I think that we have got to talk about what we do. I went to a meeting the other day and asked, how many shootings, how many homicides do you think we have in the city? And somebody said, 15 or 16. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is Newport News, right? So the perception in some minds is reality. So I've got to find a better way to promote what's going on in this department, whether it's doing our own YouTube videos, whether it's highlighting and putting out there on YouTube some of the officers coaching boys basketball at the Boys and Girls Club, our Facebook live sessions, our live streaming of events, of award ceremonies and promotions. I think those things are important, and I've got to explain to the community and tell them what we do. We've got to market ourselves. Sometimes I fear that the media kind of looks at only want to talk about things that are negative. I feel very fortunate with the relationship that I have with all the media outlets, the Daily Press, the different media outlets that we have here in the Hampton Roads area. They've been very open. I think they've been very fair, covering our good events and that are not so good. But I think that goes along with being transparent, talking about what's going on in the department, sharing the good and the bad, and going from there. I think that builds trust and legitimacy, and I think that's extremely important. Austin, yeah. So again, I appreciate that. I'll be glad to take a look at it. I can't speak to what happened in 2013. I've been here about 9 months, but I will assure you that we do have very, very strong conversations about crime. It has never come up about how we report it. The issues for me, are we investigating it? Is it legit? And how we solve it, right? How do we prevent it? How do we make sure it doesn't happen again? Who's the victim? And if it is a true victim, and we've got a true suspect, then when are we putting warrants on file? Have we made an arrest? I'm not waiting around. I'm not just putting a warrant on file and letting it sit. I want to know what steps we're doing to go make that arrest. I think that's important. I think that's also one of the things we talk about legitimacy and trust, is that if an individual commits a crime, there's a warrant placed on file, that we're going to go look for that individual and ultimately find them. Now sometimes we will prioritize that. Some of the more violent individuals we'll go after first. But I'm holding people accountable. If you have 25 warrants on file, how many are we serving? If you come to me on Thursday and say, I have 25 warrants, Chief, and then we come back next Thursday and you still have 25 warrants, then something ain't right. So I want to, where are we at on those cases? Every Thursday I get an update on our shooting cases, on our homicide cases, on our sexual assault, especially the violent crime. So I can tell you, Austin, rest assured that we go through those crimes, we talk about them. The issues for me is not how we're reporting them. I want them to be accurate. We're going to do investigations because people do make false reports. And sometimes we charge people for making false reports. But for me, it is, how do we prevent crime? And when it occurs, how do we go to arrest the individual? And how do we intervene so it doesn't happen again? How is gang prevention going? So Larry, when I look at gang prevention, there's a couple ways you look at that. Are we still seeing gang activity? How many shootings do we have in our city? How many homicides do we have in our city? What are our robberies? Vehicle thefts? Those are some of the things that gang activity will revolve around. Our homicides are down. Two of our homicides have been domestic violence. One homicide, which may or may not be justifiable, the jury's still out on that. They're reviewing that with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. I have met with both families. That leaves the other two have been an act of some type of argument. Neither one of those is going to end up being gang related. Our robberies are almost cut in half. We've got a decrease in robberies this year. That might be an overstatement. Not quite in half, but we've got a decrease. Our clearance rates are good, and when I look at motives, one of the things we talk about a particular crime is what is the motive, and I'm not seeing a lot of gang activity and motives. They're very, very proactively going after individuals with firearms and drugs, illegal narcotics, illegal firearms, street robberies, areas where we have seen those happen. There are certain areas that we're focusing on this year. I can tell you three, that Courthouse Green, Marshall Courts, and Wrigley Circle are three areas that I haven't seen much of a difference in crime over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. Those three neighborhoods we will focus on all year long, but not just with enforcement, also with community interaction, youth interaction, businesses, HR, CAP we just talked about. My goal is this summer to have a community day in each one of those locations where we're cooking hamburgers and hot dogs, having some cooked out, bringing some vendors along to talk about job fairs, job opportunities, health and wellness, human services there, and just have an interaction with community. I want those individuals, and what I've found, and I don't think it's earth-shattering, but what I've found, what I've seen, is that a lot of the crime that happens in some of our neighborhoods are not by individuals who live there. It's from individuals who come from outside those communities, outside those neighborhoods, and try to prey on people that live there. And oftentimes, it is areas that is condensed poverty, where people try to take advantage of other people. And I'm not tolerating that. I'm empowering the citizens to not tolerate that. We're going to treat them just like everybody else. We're going to protect them just like everybody. They matter, and I want them to know that. I want people across Newport News to know that people matter. So when I talk about empowering citizens, I want them to step up and take their neighborhoods back. I want them to know when they call the police that we're going to respond, we're going to be follow up with them and go through things from start to finish. I think that's what builds a strong community, and it's given us a lot of momentum as we move forward and see some crime reduction numbers that we're seeing. Your presence in the community is amazing. We need this. Thank you. Debbie, thank you. I tell you what, I need that. Sometimes I wonder, am I getting through the community, or is this department doing the right thing? Are we making the right connections? And I've had a lot of positive comments here lately, and I really appreciate that. It is a push. The three things that I focus on is we're going to reduce crime in this city, the health and wellness of this organization, and we are going to be community oriented, focusing on our youth and our citizens, our faith leaders, our business owners. Right, we're going to be a strong fundamental basis for community engagement in the city. It's important. I think when you have that, you have a lot more trust, you have a lot more transparency, people are open, they share information, and it goes a long way. But I'm very blessed here. Let me just say this. I've got a great staff, I've got great officers, I've got the best training academy on the East Coast for my friends in Richmond. I'm telling you, they're very progressive here. This is a great training facility and great trainers. It's a great community. Right, it's a very diverse community here, a military town. People care about what's going on. They're getting more and more engaged. I've got a strong police foundation to do a great job in bringing people together and getting good support beside some of the initiatives that we're having, whether we're dealing with youth or our community. I've got Bayport Credit Union is working with the police department, helping us with the youth commissioners. We just had our last award ceremony, and citizens coming in and taking part. A family came by and asked what's going on here, and I stopped them at the door, and we were just talking that this is our award ceremony, and they came in and just sat through and watched it. That's what I'm talking about, right? Those are the things I'm talking about. Being engaged with the community, opening our doors to citizens, having them engage with us, being transparent. I think it makes a world of difference. So Debbie, thank you. That means a lot to me. I appreciate that. Different ways you can deal with domestic violence is getting into schools, colleges, and hold orientations, pamphlets. Maurice, most of the things you just talked about we're doing, especially, and you're right, one of the things you talked about with schools, that's probably one that I wasn't doing as well. When I've held these youth forums, sometimes the students, the kids are bold enough to ask a question. Sometimes they'll fill it out on an index card, and we'll collect baskets, and I'll read when there's a lull and nobody's really asking questions. We'll read some of the cards. But more and more, what I'm finding is in those cards and in the after the event's over, that people are talking to me about domestic violence. They're talking to me about bullying, domestic violence, sexual assault. And because that's happened, when I have the forums now, I make sure that I take someone from our special victims unit that deals with issues with youth, issues with rape, sexual assault, domestic violence. So I have them there with me, real experts on domestic violence. But it's not just in-house. I'm bringing in a lot of speakers to talk to our department on how we investigate domestic violence, how we treat victims of domestic violence. You know, when I started, it was, hey, the facts, man, just the facts, right? Joe Friday, what are the facts? What happened? And now, whether it's a male victim or a female victim, it doesn't make any difference. It's, okay, how do we make sure you're okay, right? How do we support you? We'll get, we want to know who did this, but what is the best treatment for you right now? How can we help you? And here's some things that we have in place. And I think that makes it a little bit different. We kind of treat the victim, right? We treat the victim to address the crime. And I think that sometimes it takes us a while to build that trust with victims. But everything you mentioned there, we're doing. The big one for me, though, has been I think we need to start younger. Starting to talk to young people about putting your hands on someone, violence, bullying, sexual assault, social media, all of those issues I think are huge. And I think that might give us a good start. All right, so Austin, the constitutional rights are for everyone. If we ask permission and someone allows you to search them, sometimes it happens that way. Sometimes individuals being detained and they're going to be patted down. So I support the Constitution, and people have those rights. Just make sure that we know what they are. if someone gives a description that this individual has a problem or an issue, or this is the vehicle that just left the scene and we believe it was involved, that individual may get stopped and have a conversation. Just like you would want to investigate anything that happened to you or a family member, we would do the same thing with anyone else. But I think I'm agreeing with your question. I have no issue with that. People have the right to attorney. They have the right to remain silent. So I think that goes without saying. Jennifer. Jennifer, thank you. I will tell you, those commissioners are amazing people. They amaze me every Thursday, and the more you get to know them, the more we get to know each other. They open up. We had a poetry slam, I guess about 2 weeks ago now, and we talked really a focus on violence and how they saw things through their eyes, through poetry or a speech. And I'll tell you, that was one of the funnest events that I've been to this year. I sat and listened. And some people really opened up. They talked about things that were going on in their own lives that I didn't know about. They talked about things they see in their community, things that they see in their schools, how they feel about bullying and social media. And to provide a forum where people will open up and talk, I was completely blown away. I'm telling you, I'm going to meet with them this Thursday. I'm going to push them to do another poetry event before the end of the year. And I'd like to invite the community. I think it'd be important for members of City Council, the mayor, myself, my staff, to hear what these young people are saying. I think the days are long past of, you're young, we don't want to hear what you have to say. I think that the youth of today have a strong voice, and I will tell you, they're going to be heard one way or the other. I think it helps us. It's a smart way for us to provide a forum for individuals to communicate to us. I want young people to know I want to hear their opinion. They matter to me. I want to know how they feel about things. That's important. So those youth forums, those poetry slams, the young adult police commissioners, all those things, that is all about impacting our youth and showing my support and eagerness to learn from them. So I appreciate that. It's when you're around young people, that's important. That's important, and it does a great job. When I did our promotions, the final stage is the officers, individuals wanted to be promoted. Well, they have a final interview with myself and one of the assistant chiefs, and then someone from the community. I had people that oversee the housing authority in Newport News. I had the head of our public libraries in Newport News. I had the president of the NAACP on a panel in Newport News. I had Pastor Rita Twiggs on a panel. Used to tour the circuit with T.D. Jakes, and now she's back here in Newport News. Citizens ask different questions. They look at different things. They ask different questions. They look at different things, and they have good interaction. I think those things are important, right? How do you feel about youth? What are you going to do about youth? How do you feel about minor arrest? How do you feel about diversity? All those things are important. So let me talk a little bit about what we've got going on in the department besides crime. Like I said, our new academy will start in July. One of the mandates that 10% of the academies from now on, from July 1 moving forward, every class has to have 3 individuals who can speak Spanish. 10%. We average about 25 to 30 in a class. 10% from now on have to speak Spanish. I've got to be able to make sure I can communicate with cultures in this community. And as I see our Hispanic population grow and grow, I need to increase our Hispanic speakers. I want to make sure that we have a diverse academy, male, female, black, white, Hispanic. I want a diverse population coming in. We should reflect the community we serve, but I also want us to be diverse in our rank structure, in the units that we have, in our supervision. I think all of those things are important. They play a key role in being transparent, right? I want to. We continue to have our faith leaders meetings. I went down. We just talked about domestic violence. The last 2 or 3 meetings we've had, we really covered domestic violence. But the last week we met, I just went down and asked for advice. There was a situation that I was struggling with, a decision, and I asked faith leaders, what are your thoughts? The community of Newport News, what do you want from this police department? What do you expect from your chief? I was really struggling with the decision, and I asked them for some advice, and I valued it, right? I valued what they had to say to me, and I took that into heavy consideration, and as we moved forward. Now, when I look at some of the other things, I think it's important for us to be out at community events. I think it's important for people to see us. We're doing a lot in our high schools and our middle schools, but I'll tell you where I'm missing the mark is our elementary. I don't do enough in the elementary schools in Newport News. I have a great relationship with Dr. Parker. We spend a lot of time talking about that. We're trying to do adopt a school program where I have an officer, a chief, adopt an elementary school, and 1 day a week, 30 minutes to an hour, we go to that elementary school where the kids are getting on the bus, where they're getting off the bus, or we have lunch with them. Or we talk to the principal and librarian and maybe read to a class and interact with elementary kids. When I was young, we had the DARE program. I don't have that right now, and I don't have the staff to put in every elementary school. But if we just budgeted that time and looked it into structure, I think it's important. I think it's very, very important. The younger we start interacting with our citizens, I think it changes things, and that's one of the things that I really want to focus on. I'll make sure I haven't missed any other questions as we come through. I think we're looking good there. We're catching up. So let's see a couple other things going on. We've had a lot of training recently. We talked about the training that I'd like to have here. I'd like to do a couple investigation schools, school resource officer as we get ready to go into the summer. We're going to partner with the Boys and Girls Club. So get this is cutting edge stuff right here. We're going to have another basketball league where officers are going to coach basketball. We're going to do that for about 6 weeks. And then the next 4 weeks after that, apparently kickball is a big sport in Newport News. So we're going to play kickball. There's some great fields. We're going to interact with our youth, and I think we're going to be on teams and coach some teams. And Josh Black is really overseeing our police athletic league over the summer. And I'll tell you that's exciting. I look forward to going out. And I'm a baseball fan, and actually, if everything works out on Thursday, I'm going to go watch the high school baseball game. I believe it's Hampton and Menchville are playing a high school baseball game at Menchville. So I'm looking forward to try to get up there and catch that. I remember when I first got here, every Friday night, myself and Chief Grinstead and a couple of the other officers would go out to Todd Stadium and watch the high school games. I enjoyed that. I enjoy interacting with citizens and parents and even some of the kids on the sideline. But I'm also looking forward to baseball season now that it's here, and I'm planning to cut out some of my time in my schedule just to get out of the office, get out of the neighborhood, and just watch a high school baseball game. I think that's important. I went to several basketball games, but I will tell you my passion is baseball, and I look forward to that. So as we go forward, I want to continue more of these meetings. I'm going to go a little bit past 1 o'clock today because I know I got started a little bit late. But I want to continue these meetings and interactions. I think it's valuable. I have one more community forum. I'm going to do that, make sure I'm reading it right, this Thursday at 6:30. It's going to try to incorporate the people located in the central part of the city. We're going to do it at Midtown Community Center. We'll be there about an hour and 15 minutes. I'll give about a 10-minute overlay of where we're at on crime, and then I really want to answer questions. As we move forward, a couple of things that I'm focusing on, of course, homelessness. I think that's still an issue that we address. We have the Day Reporting Center where we have all the resources located in one location, but there's still a concern for me for the homeless issue in our city. I want to focus more on our elementary schools. I know we're getting ready to go into the summer, but I really want to have a strong program with focusing on elementary schools as we get into September and start the school year. I want to do a couple more training sessions for, we'll do it with schools over the summer, but our churches on active shooter type situations, church safety and preparedness. I think those things are important. I'm really excited about this recruiting class. I'm meeting some really, really nice people that want to join this department. And look, we have a lot of opportunities here in Newport News, not just law enforcement wise. We have a lot of positions where we do with records, our dispatchers and communications, bringing police aides, people that want to volunteer. If you're interested in volunteering, we have a great volunteer program. All those things, they play a role in what we're trying to do to make this community better, right? To improve our quality of life of our citizens. I have 2 more youth forums set. My goal is to do 6 for the year, and when I finish these 2, it'll be at 7. I didn't think they would go that fast. I didn't know how many would want to attend or how they would catch on, so I really look forward to the feedback. on those, and it's funny to see some of the categories really overlay when we talk to youth, when we talk about issues like diversity and police involved shootings. What's the process? One of the individuals says, "Well, how do you do that when an officer is involved in a shooting?" And for me, it's three phases. For here in Newport News, God forbid that we have one. The first, it's investigated as a criminal act. That's our forensics department, Howard Gwynn, the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, the state lab in Norfolk, our forensics and internal affairs. They investigate that as a criminal matter. Once if it is proven to be criminal, then the prosecution would take place. If it's proven to be justified, then there's a letter of declination that there will be no criminal charges, and then we go to the administrative side of the house. And internal affairs will take over the investigation, and did we do what was proper within our policy and guidelines? When that's completed, then it goes to the training component, and the training division looks at what could we have done better for this not to have happened. It may turn out that we did everything we could have. Couldn't have been prevented. But was there a situation where we sent one officer to an intense call, or maybe we should have sent two or three? Is it something where we acted properly, but we could have waited more time, and how would we handle it? What could we do better? We always self-evaluate ourselves. How can we improve? When we talk about situations that occur after action reports, we had a crime of burglaries in a neighborhood. This is the plan we put in place to reduce them. Third phase, how did we do, and what could we have done better? Maybe we should have got the community involved on the front end instead of in the middle or the end of the initiative. Let them know what we're doing up front. Maybe to do more community walks and have citizens walk with us. Maybe to do more overt and covert operations, right, using surveillance cameras and those type things. So how do we improve? We also look at what's going on around the country. What are other departments struggling with? And what can we learn from mistakes that others have made? How we reinvent ourselves. We're constantly looking at other departments, sending people across the country for training, or going out of state for some training on interactions with youth court, youth violence. We're going to look at less than lethal weapons out of state. Some of the new technologies are coming in. And we're partner a lot with the TASER and see some of the things that they have. We look at our body-worn camera and how do we upload that quicker. The devices continue to get smaller and technology evolves. But those things is how do we improve this department? How do we improve this community? How are other ways to get the community more involved? We already sit on use of force review boards. They take part in our promotional process. In any event you see where we have promotional ceremony, an award ceremony, we will have a 9/11 ceremony this year. We talk things about community events. You're going to see me interact with youth. I've asked youth to come with me to address the mayor and city council about some things we're doing. I want them to be involved in community walks that we're doing, and crime reduction strategies, and press conferences that we've had, taking part at award ceremonies. Those things are important. It shows the community that they matter. It shows youth that I value them, but it also shows the officers who wear this uniform and the individuals that work here that community and youth are important. Last week I got to go spend about 45 minutes with Soundscapes. Those kids are, look, I still struggle with the recorder I had when I was in the elementary school. They got kids playing the trombone and the keyboard they're amazing, right? When I got sworn in here as chief, there was 5 or 6 that sat on stage and played, and I was blown away. I went to see them at their school, and just the music that they play and how they read, those kids are phenomenal. The kids in Newport News are extremely talented. I want to capitalize on that. I want to bring them into what we're doing and take part. I think that's important. I had young people help me with our last award ceremony. Young adult police commissioners actually did the opening and addressed and thanked officers for what they do. Youth of this city thanking officers for what they do. The same thing with National Night Out, the same thing when we have our academy graduations. You're going to see youth involved. They play a role, and I value them. But those are just some of the things that we have as we go forward. Debbie, wait a minute, let me see what we got. How about Live PD to help? Crucial turnaround crime. Well, I think it's a possibility. I will tell you, just last week, the commissioners, they were here, a group of about 20, and we have a simulator that we partner with in the region where it's kind of puts you through scenarios. So you're like facing a big screen, like a big video game, but it puts you in, I mean, you're having interaction, and it's shoot or no shoot or verbal commands. And it dispels the myths a lot about, why don't you just shoot the gun out of their hand, or why don't you just wing someone in the shoulder, or could you just shoot someone in the foot? So we allow people to try that, and rounds are up flying all over the place, right? So we put people in real scenarios so they see what it's like, right? And you talk to someone before, and you talk to someone after that's gone through that, and they get that officers are asked to make split-second decisions. Split second. And then we spend weeks and sometimes months going back over that decision. We've got to keep that all in perspective. People who sit back and comment and talk about things, right? But to put you in that situation, and you feel that how quick you have to make a decision, that's life-changing. And it's a way of exposing and trying to share with other people what's going through our minds with the emotions and how we're responsible for everything in that area and controlling that act. It's just another way to get some exposure to this department. I think it's our Faith Leaders Academy, our Citizens Academy. Those are the individuals that we pull in and ask to help sit on our use of force review boards. We have one of those. I think it's Wednesday this week. But look, I've gone a little bit over. Again, I apologize for being late. It was completely my fault. I appreciate all those that chimed in today, some of the questions. I want to thank you for taking time. We'll do this again tonight. I think it's 6 o'clock. I will be on time. But again, I just want to thank you. And let me just say this before we sign off. I appreciate the men and women of this organization, sworn and civilian. But I also appreciate the citizens of Newport News, those that are taking a stand, those that are fighting back against crime, those that are letting us know that situations are taking place, those that are stepping up to prevent crime, to stepping up to help others. There is a vibe in the city, right? Things are changing. We do have momentum. We're going to continue to keep going. And I believe that the successes we're seeing we're just on the front end. I think we're going to have a record year of crime reduction. We're going to have a record year of community and youth engagement and involvement. So I just want to say thank you to the citizens of Newport News. Thank you for this time together, and we'll talk again around 6 o'clock this evening. Thank you guys. Be safe.